Hi, I'm going to walk you through how to do this case. My name is Dr. Wendy Tietz, and I'm going to show you what you need to do. I have Excel open. I am using Excel on a Windows computer. I am running Office 365. The commands for this assignment will be very similar for a Mac. So let's get started. The first thing on the instructions says to calculate the following measures and ratios for 3 years and put the formulas in the appropriate cells. So just looking at what we have, it's asking us to do working capital, current ratio, and quick ratio. Notice that we are in the ratios worksheet. That's where we need to be. We have an income statement worksheet. We have a statement of retained earnings worksheet, and we have a balance sheet worksheet. So we are doing our work in the ratios worksheet, and we are going to do those ratios. Now, we want to point to the cells that contain the numbers. We don't just want to do the math and type in a number because that really doesn't use the power of Excel. So let's start by doing something that's going to help us a bit with that. We're going to have our ratios worksheet side by side with where we're pointing to the numbers. So let's do this. Let's click on Open a New Window. And now you see we have a new window. And how do I know this is a new window? Because the font size has changed. I'm going to make it bigger so that we can see it better for this demonstration. And I still have 2 worksheets up at the very top. Out of the recording range, it does have a 2 after my file name. So now I'm going to go back into View. I'm going to Arrange All. And when I click on All, I want to show both my 2 windows of the active workbook. I'll click OK. And then you're going to see what we have here. Okay, so what you see is I have 2 copies of the exact same file. One is labeled with a 1 at the top after the file number, the other's with a 2, and we are working in the same exact file. So what this allows me to do is over here, I'm going to be working on the file on the right side, and what I can do is on the left side I can independently navigate to all different places within that same workbook. So they are in the same thing. I'm just displaying both of them. This lets me access my numbers a little more easily. So I just increased the font so I could see it better for the recording. Okay, so let's get started with working capital. Now, working capital, again, I'm over in the right hand. I'm over in cell B4, and I know that working capital is current assets minus current liabilities. And working capital I want to get that total here. And again, I want to point to it. And we're using current assets and current liabilities. Both those items are on the balance sheet. So you see over here on the left side, copy, I am in the balance sheet. So what I'm going to do is over in my ratios worksheet, I am going to hit equal sign. Okay, that's telling Excel to get ready for the formula. And then I am going to come over here in the left side copy. I'm going to click on total current assets, which is right here. Now notice, so I am in the left side, but notice on the right side, it now has balance sheet exclamation mark B10, which is the address for the cell that has the highlighting, the dotted lines running around it. And then over on the right side, I'm going to hit a minus key or that dash. And then I'm going to say, well, I have current assets. I want to subtract current liabilities. So my current liabilities, I look over on my balance sheet. Current liabilities, the only thing I have is accounts payable. So I'm going to click on that. And now over in the copy on the right side, I see I have balance sheet current assets minus balance sheet current liabilities. Notice I did not type those names in there. I just pointed to the cells I want. So now I'm going to hit over here, I'm going to hit enter, and I have the total there. So now for the current ratio, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do equal, okay? And then the current ratio is total current assets. So I'm going to click over here. Notice that over here on the left side, copy, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a divide symbol, and then I'm going to divide by accounts payable. Now notice I am doing 2023 here, so I'm just working my way down the way. Okay, the quick ratio. The quick ratio is going to be a little bit more involved because the quick ratio doesn't have total current assets on the numerator. It has just the quick assets, so cash, accounts receivable, any short-term investments. So let's get started on that one. This one I'm going to do an equal sign. Now I'm going to have, looking at my balance sheet, I have cash, I have accounts receivable. Those are both quick assets. Inventory is not a quick asset. It's a current asset, but it's not as quick to turn over into cash, so that's why it's not included in the quick ratio numerator. So I want to add cash and accounts receivable together. Now this is important because we have to use parentheses to tell Excel to add those two things together. So I'm going to type a parenthesis, the left parenthesis, and now I'm going to point to cash over in the left side. Okay, so I'm pointing to that. And then I want to add to that, so I'll use my plus sign. I want to add accounts receivable. And then I'm done with what I'm adding there, so I'm going to do the other parentheses to close that. Now that's my numerator on the quick ratio. I want to divide by total current liabilities. And I just have one here, so I'm going to do a division symbol, and then I'm going to point to accounts payable. And I will hit enter, and there I have my quick ratio. Okay, so you're getting the idea here. Those first three ratios we did on the requirements all used numbers on the balance sheet. So now the requirement for Requirement 1 says to calculate the ratios, working capital, current ratio, and quick ratio. Now, those three we did for 2023. Now, we also need those for 2022 and 2021. So to do this quickly, I'm just going to drag those over here, and now I have calculated the ratios for all 3 years. I'm done with that. So let's move on to the debt ratio. The debt ratio is looking at what percentage of our total assets are financed by debt. So to calculate it, we're going to do an equal sign to tell it we want to calculate something. And we are going to be taking total debt, which is total liabilities. So we're going back to the balance sheet. We're going to divide that by total assets. So we're going to take that, divide by total assets, and that's our debt ratio. Now we're moving on to the times interest earned ratio. The times interest earned ratio is operating income divided by interest expense. Now neither one of those items is on the balance sheet. They're both on the income statement. So we're going to go to our left side worksheet, and we're going to click on income statement. Okay, so now we can see, I'll make that a little bit smaller so we can see all the years. Okay, so now what we're going to do for the interest earned ratio is, again, we will do the equal sign. And here, again, times interest earned is going to be operating income. So I'm going to get operating income. Okay, and then I'm going to divide it by interest expense. So I want to divide by interest expense, and that's it for times interest earned. Okay, so now we have those two, and so let's go ahead, and this is requirement 2, and let's copy it over to the other 2 years. So notice we only had to do it for the 2 years, and then we could copy over. And now let's do requirement 3 for the gross margin percentage and return on sales. So gross margin percentage is gross margin divided by sales. Both those items are on the income statement, so I'll start with an equal sign. And our gross margin in 2023, we point to that. We're going to divide by sales, hit enter, okay? And then return on sales. Return on sales is going to be calculated as operating income, so I'm going to do an equal. I'm going to point to operating income and then divide that by sales as well. Okay, so now I've calculated the ratios. I'm going to copy those over. Okay, so now the next part of this says to format these ratios. And so I no longer need this other worksheet here. It's taking up extra room. So I'm going to close it just by clicking on the X up at the top. And then I'll be back to just having my one worksheet. Okay, so now I can format according to requirement 4. So requirement 4 says to format working capital. So we're going to format working capital. We're going to select all 3 cells. We're going to right click. There's a couple different ways to do it, but I'm going to format cells, and then it's asking for to format it as number, 0 decimal places. So I'm going to decrease that 0. I'm going to use the thousand separator, and click OK. Okay, now we're told to format the current ratio, the quick ratio, debt ratio, and times interest earned ratio. So current ratio, quick ratio, debt ratio, times interest earned ratio, we want to format those all as numbers. So let's go back to Format Cells, right-click, Format Cells, and then we want to select number and 2 decimal places. So I think we're good there. Click OK. And those are much more readable. And then finally, gross margin and return on sales, we want to select those, right-click, Format, and these we want to format as percentage with 2 decimal places, so we will click OK. Okay, so now we've done the formatting, so we're done with requirement 4. Now we're moving on to requirement 5. This is really cool. We want to create sparklines, and what sparklines do is it allows us to show a quick little graph of those numbers. So let's start right here. Let's start, and what we want, whoops, okay, so what we want to do is, so to insert that sparkline, I'm going to click in cell E4, which is where I want the first one to be. There are a couple different ways to do this, and I moved my screen down so you could see it. Up at the search bar, I'm going to type sparkline, and when I type sparkline, I just did it, you'll see line sparkline appear. So I'm going to click on that. It says my data range for that line. I'm going to select the 3 items. And where do I want it? I want cell E4, and there's my sparkline. Okay, so I could say, now I want those sparklines all the way down, so I'm just going to go to the fill handle in that lower right corner, see how my cursor changes, and I'm going to double click it, I'm going to drag it down, and there we go. I've got sparklines all the way down for the sparklines, and so those are sparklines, and it gives you in one cell, it shows you the trend in each of those ratios. So that was requirement 5. There are several different ways to put sparklines in, so just keep that in mind, and there's lots of cool options with them. And then requirement 6 says to save your workbook. So to do that, you'll do File, and then you'll do Save As, and so you can do the save as there using your last name combined with ratios. And then you need to requirement 7, what is your overall assessment of the company to pay its current liabilities. By the way, by now you've realized that my numbers are different than your assigned file, but this is just a tutorial video. And then to check your work before you answer the questions, save a copy of this worksheet, and the instructions are on page 2, or to check your work under that heading, you want to save this as a separate, yet another copy. You want to call it check figures, your last name. And then it's telling you to go in to change some of these numbers on your worksheet. So you would go in to, say, the balance sheet and click on the worksheet, change cash to what's given there, change inventory to what's given there. So go through and make the changes you need, and then you will then click back on the ratios worksheets once you make those changes and compare your numbers to check figures I've given you, and they should match if all your formulas work. If they don't match, you have to go back and look at your formulas. So make sure you save your worksheet. Just to recap, after you're done with your ratios, save it with your last name, and that's what you'll use to answer questions. But also do another save as, and save it as check figures. Make the changes specified under to check your work, and make sure your formulas are right, but you're going to use that first worksheet to answer questions for the assignment. So that's it. I hope it was very helpful to you, and have a great day.